Good afternoon, Chassos. Welcome to my live stream Q&A video. Now I say live stream because we were going to be having one for my birthday that didn't quite pan out. So we're going to be doing one for right now where I'm going to answer the Q&A questions. We're going to do some giveaway stuff and just some updates about the channel and everything else. If you're watching this and you're not one of my patrons and you'd like to get questions answered, be featured in one of these videos, get access to some of the giveaways that we're doing as well as all of the other awesome stuff including Discord access, then head over to the link in the description for my Patreon where you can support me, get stuff for yourself and be there with the growth of this channel. Speaking of growth, first and foremost, this will be the last set of giveaways that I'll be doing for vouchers for Irresistible Force and Aussie Wargaming. Now that is not because anything bad has happened, that is actually because some really, really good stuff has happened. Namely, first and foremost, that Aussie Wargaming and Irresistible Force are increasing their support of me. Now what that's meant is that I will be getting physically more products and codexes and boxes and all this sort of stuff, things that I can make content with, things that I can start learning different parts of the game with, and there will also be an affiliate link which has been generated for Aussie Wargaming that is going to kind of be at the forefront of all the stuff I'm doing, basically give you guys the biggest discount off Warhammer as they do 25% off everywhere. It's something that whenever you click that link, you know that you are helping me directly by giving me a cut of it and, you know, analytics on all the people that are going and using my link to kind of drive the value prospect for businesses coming from my thing. I won't get too much in the weeds with all of that sort of stuff. But because of that, it means that this will be the last set of giveaways that we will be doing. So it's very exciting for me as we only started doing this less than half a year ago. We hit 1,000 subscribers recently. We have a functioning and flourishing Patreon and Discord. And even though we're still a drop in the ocean as compared to YouTube, we've come a long, long way since where we started out with my phone and just filming and, you know, doing whatever. Now we have a bunch of cameras, we have microphones that I can take around, and I'm going to be using these not just for the stuff that I've done, but to film at different events. Even if I can't play in them, go and actually get some footage and player interviews and all this sort of stuff to make up some really high-end competitive content for you guys. Also, you'll notice that we are lit better as our patrons have been able to get us a set of proper professional box lights, which is really, really great. So there's a lot happening with the channel. There's some stuff that I can't talk about just yet. We have, and I sincerely hate editing so much, we have episodes of Mutually Assured Destruction coming. We have already filmed the World Eaters and the Astra Militarum episodes, and that has been fantastic having both Pete and Tim come out and do that in the studio. If you're interested, there is the Bumbag Bros Collide preview look, which is the skit that we did, which is going to be at the front of the Astra Militarum one. I did it as a short, but maybe I'll do it as a different video. The skit that I filmed with Pete, where Chelsea comes home, and we've kind of filmed it in a way where, you know, one leads into the other, where the Bumbag Bros video sort of starts at where, spoiler alert, I'm inviting strange men in to peel the plastic off my codexes, and then in the other video where Chelsea comes home and catches me peeling plastic with another dude. Anyway, so that's been really, really fun, and we've got a lot more stuff coming. There's a bigger project that I'm working on where I'm going to be collaborating with some very, very, very talented musicians. So we've got that in the works at the moment. That'll probably be one of the biggest filming projects that I've done to date. But anyway, let's get into the Q&A stuff, and then we can do the giveaways at the end. All right, so let's go for the first one. There's a couple in here from Tucker, who's been a long-time patron. It might be too in-depth for Q&A, but how do you look at weapons and read value when looking at the type, strength, AP, damage? For example, starting to look at the Riptide. The Iron Accelerator looks like great by 10 points with high strength, AP, damage, and massive range, but then I realized it's heavy 6 versus heavy 12. The stock heavy burst cannon, I'm assuming it comes down to employment and building game time experience. Okay, so this one is a logical process that you follow, and this is something that Hayden touched on in our interview with his successes winning the WTC Worlds event and also going to Uprising and doing that. All right, so this one comes down to a little bit of experience, a little bit of a logical flow, and we actually touched on this in my interview with Hayden Walduck. He had great success at the World's WTC event with Australia winning the entire thing, which is really great as an Australian, and also with his successes at Uprising. This was something that he did with his employment of his commanders and his Riptides and everything else. First and foremost, he's a massive fan of big volume, especially if you can put pips of AP onto those volume shots. You've got a lot more that you will scare your opponent with if you're throwing tons of shots at him and he's just having to roll a shitload of dice. Now, this isn't always a rule. Like I would probably say that it's more the rule and there are exceptions to it. Like, for example, if you're going into like, a bunch of Terminators with Storm Shield Thunderhammer, where they're functionally on like a 0-up save, and even with AP2, they're still saving on 2s, and then that's assuming cover. And you're relying on them rolling 1s. That's not the best sort of use of lower AP weapons with high volume, but for the most part, when you're going into armies, like units that have those rules generally don't make up the bulk of what's going to win the game for them. It'll be something which is annoying, it'll be something which is, maybe unmovable from a particular objective on the field, but generally speaking, you're looking at things, 1, throwing volume at people is great, and 2, filling a role. Now, that's why in your specific example with the ion accelerators, we find that generally all Riptides are taking them. Because of the role that they tend to fit, AP3 puts almost everything back onto a 4-up invuln. So talking about if we've got the Riptides with their target locks and you're targeting those Terminators that are in cover, target locks remove the cover bonus, putting them back to a 1-up, and then AP3 puts them back to their 4-up invulnerable save, which you really, really want to put them on because saving on 3s is a damn sight better than saving on 4s. And also the Riptides tend to fit into a niche that you're filling in a lot of different lists where they are filling an anti-vehicle role, they're filling an anti-elite and Terminator. You're probably able to hear some of the lightning that's going on at the moment. I apologize for that. We've got a lot of storms in Sydney at the moment, so hopefully that's not too distracting, but I'll press forward anyway. So when you're looking at that, when you're looking at the strength, the damage, the number of shots, all that sort of thing, it's about looking at, first and foremost, what role is the unit that I'm putting these weapons onto filling? And when I'm shooting at a majority of things, what will it really be doing? When we look at the heavy burst cannon, we have noticed that in Triptide that one of them will have that heavy burst cannon. And I think the reason for that, first and foremost, is you've got 2 Riptides fulfilling, be it jump, shoot, jump, be it standing on a point with 5 feel no pain, whatever, but they are shooting at your dreadnoughts, your vehicles, your whatever. The heavy burst cannon being damage 2 means that it is killing Marines, but it is not killing Terminators. And we're seeing with Dark Angels and Space Wolves and all that sort of stuff being prominent in the meta, there is a lot of 3 wound or above units, or there's a ton of things with -1 damage. Damage 4 going to damage 3, not that big a deal. Damage 2 going to damage 1, very big deal. So when you start following that logical line, and this is why we're seeing the, crisis suits, if people are taking those, they're having a wider spread of guns because the volume on them is incredible. You've got some plasmas to go through and just, take out 3-wound models instantly if they go through and don't get saved. You've got cyclics for a lot of higher volume, strength 8, AP2, damage 2, and then you've got the burst cannons for your anti-personnel. Because crisis suits really are filling a wide range of roles within our armies that they're not just anti-tank, they're not just anti-heavy infantry, they are kind of anti-everything. They're kind of trying to be a, what is the word I'm thinking of? A Swiss Army knife. That's what I was trying to say, oh my God. So that's where, when you start looking at it, especially when you start playing at the higher end more and more, like you get a ton of people in, my videos and in different forums and whatever else that will share their 2 cents of, oh, well, I took a ghost kill and I took a bunch of stealth suits and I took a bunch of Crutox riders or whatever, and I did fine, I beat people. The reason why that generally isn't the case with building an army properly is that is, for anybody who's, and we're going to start getting into some science here, that is anecdotal evidence. And anecdotal evidence is not something that you can really build around. Yes, there is qualitative feedback for things that people have that are just winning more games when you can't write them down on a sheet. They're not, you're not doing point-to-point translations for, whether something's getting its value or not. But when you look at that, if you look deeper into anecdotal evidence, there is a higher weighting that will go on hearing from a player like Hayden Walduck or Liam Hackett or Richard Siegler or, any of the real high-end players that have qualitative feedback on something. You will probably weight that higher as they are, one, putting in more events, two, going up against people that are playing their factions nearer to the, top 1% of people, and you're able to get a representative view because you're not just exploiting people's mistakes. And that's the other thing that I find that I was saying this before, that I could almost literally play any tower list and find results at a tournament. The places I can't do it are places like Masters or at the highest tables of a GT or a major, because I'm generally then going up against people that will not allow me to just exploit mistakes, and I do need to have a list which is keyed into this 1% variance of power, which we see across a lot of different lists that are using. And it's not to say that innovation can't happen, but it is that, when we see lists that are off meta or a little bit odd, like the one that was running like broadsides and tetras and, all this sort of stuff, he was doing well because it was on player place terrain. You take that to a GW event or a WTC event, he may not have the same results because he doesn't have that efficacy over where he's putting his stuff. Having said that, if he's going against players that he's able to exploit their mistakes, very, very likely he would be able to put up results as well. Because if you're good at something, you're able to more readily identify when people deploy poorly or move poorly or whatever else, and then exploit that mistake. Same if you're going against good players, they'll do the same thing to you. Anyway, very, very long-winded. I apologize for that one, but hopefully it answers the question and gives you guys a little bit of something to think about. So, what are your thoughts on the possible removal of tough strength rolls for units apart from heavies, vehicles for 10th ed? Large topic that the game is about to reach 10th ed and is incredibly bloated and not balanced by design or otherwise. Any other product reaching its 10th version would want to be pretty well refined. I haven't formed opinions on 10th yet. Now, I know that as a YouTuber, I probably should. I know that as a content creator, I should be putting out as many videos as I can, doing all that sort of stuff, but it's something that I will never do as a person. It's something that I'll never do as a content creator. I don't want a single video that I put out to have somebody turn around and go, well, that was vapid nothing, and I just wasted 20 to 40 minutes watching that. Going off what I was talking about before in the last answer with following something scientifically, I will always take a scientific mindset to anything, and I think that one of the biggest things that people could really, really benefit from is saying more readily, I don't have enough information, therefore I won't form an opinion. Now, let's go down the rabbit hole of, if I had to answer gun to my head, no is not an answer. Taking away the strength toughness thing, I think that is a hard thing to balance. I think that AOS using that system, it works for them, but because there are reasons why. There's a lot of different factors that go into that game in terms of rules, even though there's a lot of crossover between the two. Like, I learned AOS relatively easily. I'm still yet to sink my teeth into the real hard competitive stuff. But there are a lot of things that go differently, like alternating activations in combat. Again, works because there's not a ton of shooting. I think the point with the bloat and the balance is a good point. I don't want us to move away from bloat, though. Now, that might sound really, really weird. Hear me out. Bloat, not to the point where there's just a bunch of stuff that we don't care about and that we have to remember when it should just be like a data sheet ability or a once per game or whatever, but taking out the complexity of the game, I don't think is a good thing. I think that AOS as a game doesn't court as many people as 40k does, because you can learn it and you can master it. And don't get me wrong, it's not an easy thing to master. But in 40K, there are so many more rules. There is generally always something for you to learn. Now, this is a personal take, and whether you consider it a hot take or not, when I learn something too quickly and when there's nothing more that it has to offer me, really, I lose interest so quickly, so quickly. It's one of the reasons why, in the video gaming sphere, I used to enjoy all different kinds of games. And now the things that really keep me are things like Path of Exile, Mythic raiding in WoW. Not a lot of other pieces of WoW really hold that much draw to me. I'll run through it once and then I'll never want to do it again. But raiding, because I'm working with 19 other people, we're doing the hardest stuff in the game. It requires good execution. It scratches that social itch. It's very similar to 40K. 40K keeps me interested and has for the last year, and that hasn't really waned or died off because every game is different. And there is always more for me to improve on, more for me to remember. Mastery does not come easy. And I've been playing Tau for the last year non-stop, and I don't feel like I have mastered this army. I don't feel like I've mastered all the different scenarios because I haven't done all the matchups against every single army in the game and different opponents, making sure that I'm playing people that are at the top of their faction. So I think removing bloat is a good idea and leaving in the good stuff. But then again, GW hasn't really showed us that they know what the good stuff is. Like, you look at the overswings with Votann, where they went too far, and that had to get brought back from massive community uproar. And then you look at other things where there have been armies that have released to the sound of a wet noodle. And you kind of like, okay, all right. Then you've got half the book filled with relics and warlord traits you'll never take because they're equally weighted, even though some are just clear standouts over the others. I think that it's hard to say on that one, so I'm really, that is gun to my head initial impressions, but I'm really going to just not form an opinion just yet. And I think that's probably one of the best things that the community can learn to do, is not form opinions until we have all of the information. Hard to do with some things, but I think the community would be better as a result. So, well, actually, Scuttle had a point here that it would be easier for newer players to get into because they don't have to learn the tables of the strength to toughness system. Yes, I agree, but I think that there is no lack of interest for newer players trying to get into it, and I think that the strength to toughness table is the least of their worries, though it would make it easier for newer players getting into it. So, Space Lennon, what is the biggest step you took that made the difference between being a casual player and a competitive one? Okay, so I think that one is a hard one to boil down into just one answer. Probably the biggest step that I took that wasn't already ingrained into my personality was finding a competitive team. Finding a competitive team and having people to rub shoulders with, people that I could trust the opinions of on rules, people that were more than willing to find the reference for the thing that they're saying you can and can't do, that was a big one. And it was around finding people that were actually putting up results. Even if it wasn't that they're winning every single RTT and GT that goes through, that's not putting up results. And anybody who thinks that that is, that's a very skewed view of what a player should be doing. Like, if there are players that are consistently putting up top 5 or top 10 showings, that's still very, very good. Like, obviously your top tier players will be winning a lot of events, but even being in the top 5 is a great achievement. You should never feel bad about being in the top 5 of an event. Obviously you can want to do better, but not ever beat the crap out of yourself for it. And this was paired with a few of the personality traits that I picked up from just being myself, the military, and that is being self-critical, not in a damaging way, but in a way that drives me to look at the things that I'm not happy with, examine them, and in a very self-aware and humble way, identify the things that need to change for me to improve. Spending a lot of time trying to learn all of my stuff very, very quickly. Like, I've done all of this in my first year of competitive play. This time last year, I was just starting to get into proper tournaments. I had only really just learned the rules. I think at this point I had put my name up for a competitive league, which I went on to win twice in a row. And a lot of that was informed with me trying to rapidly learn everything that I could. And I think this goes into what we were saying about new players picking up or whatever else. New players, don't be afraid to be a nerd. The more you learn, the more fun this game is. This game is kind of like D&D, where knowledge literally makes you more powerful. Not levels, not experience, not whatever else. You are more powerful the more that your brain can rip from itself and put into practice onto a table. So be a nerd. Learn everything. Learn, even though it's not fun, even though it's not whatever, you going through the hard stuff will lead to more fun as a result. You'll have less bad beats. You will feel more accomplished when you're at the table. You won't have that little voice in the back of your head nagging and saying, you know, oh, you're doing something wrong. You're forgetting something. What are you doing? What are you doing? And having that terrible moment of realization when somebody exploits your mistakes. So that, I think, is a competitive team, I think, is probably one of the biggest things. Reach out to your community. You might not find them the first try. And I lucked into one of the highest ranked teams in Australia just because they were at my LGS. Not everybody's going to have that, but keep trying. Make sure that you go into it like, hey, I may not get on with everybody or whatever, but if it's a good environment, if it's people that I can bounce off, if there are people I genuinely enjoy playing with or whatever else, then, you know, stick it out, get to know people, get to know the scene, whatever. If you go into a team and there's a lot of stuff that are head scratch moments, or they're not particularly great players, or you can tell that they're the sort of people that bully people because they're mid-tier players that are upset that they're mid-tier players, which a lot of teams like this do exist, don't be afraid to leave. Not in a bad way, not in a terrible way, not where you flip them off as you're heading out the door, but don't let yourself get trapped because you feel like you have to stay with the first team you join. Make sure that where you end up is a good fit for you, because you will become a product of the people that you spend the most time around. So, how much do you enjoy the modeling side of the hobby, building, painting? Follow up, what are your thoughts about 3D printing and its use accepted in your local circle? So I'll start with the 3D printing stuff first, because that's probably the easiest thing. Who cares? Honestly, we are getting so many price hikes and GW not supporting their own product line. Like, I am trying to play Skaven and they don't support half of their goddamn models. I can't get my hands on them. So if they're not going to support their product line and somebody else is willing to print them, or I can print them myself or whatever else, then fuck yeah, do it. 100%. Like, if they're not going to support themselves, if they're going to gouge people, if they're going to practice shitty business practices, then go for it. If it's not hurting anybody and you're doing it at your own, you know, I guess you get into a different conversation when it's about people selling it to other people. But if it's just you with a 3D printer and you want to play with some toys in the interim, or, you know, you're in a position like I was in where you don't have a ton of money and you want to jump into something and start learning quickly and build up over time, like I did with my Tau and my Votann and everything else with Skaven, then that can be a great way for somebody to enter into the game. And in the long run, GW will actually make more money through that process, because that person eventually starts picking up more things, gets into the hobby, and it stops it being somebody who just couldn't break the barrier and then just never ended up doing it. In my local circle, nobody really cares. I think most of the competitive boys have 3D printed armies. It's just, yeah, you didn't hear it from me though, don't be a narc. The hobbying and modeling side of it is the hardest thing. So you might see above me some paraphernalia from my time in the military. I am, as a result of service injuries, among a lot of other things, missing 20% of two of my vertebrae. So just sitting, and it may not sound like much, but just sitting, hovering over tiny details for anything more than an hour, it is agony. I've had to do it because I have to play the events and everything else. And it's the same with tournament days. At the end of a tournament day, I generally can't go and have beers with the boys and everything else, because I have to go to the hotel room or come back home, or depends on where I'm playing out of, and lie in bed screaming and dying and resetting my neck and my back. Future J, please don't cut in the end of that song.
Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh.
So yeah, the hobbying part is actually the hardest part. It's why I am very, very passionate about a good mate of mine who's doing his own commission painting stuff. He's doing up some Pathfinders for me when I get the new Pathfinder box, Farsight box. Thank you, Aussie Wargaming. That has been confirmed, so that is fantastic. He's going to be doing that as a, put together and paint and all that sort of stuff for me. And it's why, whether he gives me anything or not, I'm more than happy to push his commission painting thing, because it really does solve a lot of problems, not just for someone like myself, but for somebody who has other injuries, for somebody who has disabilities, for, people that just don't have that sort of creative bug. They're very good at the tabletop and they're very passionate about that, but maybe painting's just not their shtick and they want something that looks really, really nice. That, you can use that a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, most of the stuff I've done or my partner has done, but that does solve a lot of problems, especially now that my collection is starting to get bigger and bigger and I look at expanding into other areas of the hobby. Having other people to help me probably will be a really big deal. I cannot understate just how much pain I go through for this hobby, but that it's not really related just to this hobby. It's basically for anything. But yeah, so that's that one. Okay, what are your thoughts on Crisis vs. Fish of Fury? This one's actually a really good one. As I tested out a Crisis list at my Shark Tank RTT, went 2-1 again, only going down to one of the best Custodes players in Australia. Actually, if you've watched my Masters video, he's the Custodes player I went down to in the last round of that. Very, very, very good player, very, very nice guy. I think that Hayden Walduck's take from my interview was correct. I think the Fish of Fury is the way. Crisis, you have to give up too much of the board. You kind of get forced into a Kauyon playstyle, and this is in the context of proper events. Now, if you go to a place that doesn't have much terrain, Crisis will rip through everything. But everywhere that I play, you have proper terrain. You have places people can hide behind, and there's not generally always a billion good angles for you to exploit. Crisis with the point nerfs, you don't have enough on the table to have a presence early, you give up too much of the board, and you score too late in the game. They will still kill efficiently. They're still a great unit, TM or Asterisk. But I think the Fish of Fury is better just because you can spring out onto the board, you can get aerospace turn 1, you're getting decisive action and they can't really stop it. You've got OBSEC in transports, you've got 2 really, really killy commanders that just do so well to shore that up. The Breach has got so much better in a past AOC world. I think that the Fish of Fury list, particularly the Borkhan one, which I'm really excited about because I haven't really been able to play a ton of Borkhan. But even I may try a Farsight Enclaves sort of version of the list. I think that's great too, especially with the new Farsight coming. I don't know if I'll actually use him, but I could use his model as an Enforcer Commander or something else just because it looks cool. But I think that is the way forward. I think that priority of scoring and putting pressure on your opponent is so good, and I think most games I'll probably be going Montcar. Camera stopped automatically, so there's a little cut there. So I've had to take a little bit of a step back from certain events for the next month or two, just because financially we're needing to play it a little bit closer to the chest. Partner's right at the end of her PhD, so hopefully that's submitted soon and we can stop living like unbelievable poor people. But yeah, so that is all of the questions. Now, that ends the Q&A. So let's get into this bad boy. You may remember right near when I was starting out, I decided to do this as a giveaway for the patrons that were in before January, and we are going to do that now. So patrons, I am going to chuck an image up over the top of my ugly mug now. What we are going to be doing, this will go into the giveaway section of the Discord, so head in there. All of you need to caption this to be in the running for Operative Rumble 6. And the caption, which gives me and my wife the biggest laugh or biggest nod of respect or something poignant and poetic or just whatever, something that entertains us the most will be the winning thing. You can caption it as many times as you want, I don't mind. Any of the viewers for this video, if you guys want to jump in and do it in the video's comments, obviously you won't win anything, but it'd be kind of funny and kind of entertaining. We are going to be doing some more giveaways like this, and when we start getting some stuff from Aussie, I may actually look at giving away kits and codexes and all that sort of stuff. So jump in the Patreon. Genuinely, it's a great community that we're building. We've just expanded into Imperial Knights. So at the moment, we are covering Tau, Leagues of Votann, Grey Knights, and Imperial Knights. We are looking at expanding that even further with faction experts that I know from around my tournament community. If you haven't seen it, I was actually on the Astralis Wargaming Network with the rank 1 AdMech player in the world. Alex Englezos, he won New South Wales Masters and is just a fantastic opponent talking about some of this stuff. So we are getting into the space of chatting to some of the highest end players that we can get access to, doing interviews, all that sort of thing, and all of it is going to be in Patreon first. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, head to the link. The other giveaway that we will be doing is for the last 2 vouchers for Aussie Wargaming. Now, let's go to the giveaways section. So, congratulations to Scuttle for winning the February giveaway, and congratulations to Fuzzy Lamp for winning the March one. So, that will be the last of our voucher giveaways. I'll get those out to you very, very soon. Make sure that you head to the giveaway channel in the Discord to comment and caption the picture that we put up. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this Q&A. I know it was a little bit longer-winded, but hopefully you got something out of some of my replies. I will generally always try and give you guys more rather than less. And that feeds into what I was saying about never really wanting to release a vapid video that has nothing in it, that's just telling you stuff that you could have read out of the codex or whatever else. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you soon. Oh, one last thing. How good is the Pantheon Studios Australia t-shirt that my partner did for my birthday? Pretty awesome, right? Who knows? Maybe it can come up as merch.